information about Skarsnik's campaign in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, because he has a plan. He has the best plan. Unlike that Gorbad Ironclaw, who, well, let's just say that it's easier to get a confederation with Gorbad than it is to get a confederation with Skarsnik, if you are playing Gorbad. That's because your game plan as Skarsnik is defeat Forgrim as quickly as possible, which you absolutely can do, and then just show up at Gorbad's doorstep, because Gorbad has a tendency of being over here in this specific settlement. Show up over here and fight him, confederate his army, take him over, and then unleash death and destruction with Mangler Squigs, because you can recruit them very, very quickly in this campaign. In fact, you can start getting the Squig cages on at the beginning of a campaign. In 2 turns, you can start recruiting Mangler Squigs, and then once you get the landmark, you can recruit even Colossal Squigs very quickly, though you won't be able to recruit the Night Goblin Big Boss, so you probably will want to start doing that. Pretty scary. Pretty damn scary, all things considered. And then you consider the fact that your Goblin and Squig units have a minus 20% upkeep. Then it gets pretty crazy. But then you also have an ambush success chance plus 15%, and that stacks with other benefits that you can get in a campaign. So specifically, you can get with Skarsnik plus 15% ambush success chance. That's pretty good, pretty damn solid, pretty great, especially when you can get up to 30% ambush success chance through the blue skill line. And Night Goblin War Bosses are also going to be useful in Skarsnik's campaign, because they get various Squig benefits over here. So melee defense, melee attack for Night Goblin units, which apparently does include Mangler Squig. Makes sense, right? But here's the crazy thing, and where things start going bananas in this campaign. See, Skarsnik's problem with ambushing and the whole focus of Night Goblin War Bosses on ambushing is that it's all well and good to get a bunch of ambush benefits, but without stock stance, you would end up getting screwed. Well, here's the thing. They already changed this for Skarsnik. So Skarsnik has the stalking stance in his campaign, as well as leadership benefits, his WA. So already you can get such a level of ambush success chance over here through Skarsnik that you might be at like 100% ambush success chance. Same with Night Goblin War Bosses. But of course, the stock stance is only available to Skarsnik until you get Carucate Peaks. And that's where Skarsnik's little campaign journey starts going freaking insane. And suddenly, that Night Goblin War Boss playstyle, as opposed to just spamming Nasty Skulkers with the Goblin Great Shaman Goblin Tides, because if we look at this one, you know, Goblin Tide is still only available for Night Goblin Great Shamans. Well, suddenly you realize, once you take Carucate Peaks, that all of your armies have stalking stats. Every single one of them. That is crazy. And even Gorbad, who, for the record, does not have a great ambush success chance, even Gorbad can still, you know, through the blue skill line, get plus 30% ambush success chance. And here's what you need to know about stock stats, right? If we look at stock stats, so it gives you a chance of ambushing an enemy army when you attack. You do need to switch out to it, so that's a bit annoying because it's not by default, so you have to remember to do that. But because you have that faction-wide plus 15% ambush success chance for all armies, that nullifies the downside of using stock stats. So that means every single one of Skarsnik's armies have a pretty damn high chance of ambushing an enemy before you start talking about out-clevering, which goes up to 30% ambush success chance. Before you start getting Ambusher, which gives you an additional 15% ambush success chance. So is Skarsnik the master of ambushing on a campaign level? Yes. Does he have a great deal of power in his campaign, yes. And I gotta say, when you got stock stands, forget all of Gorbad's gimmicky upgrades to his army. This is the real plan. Out ambushing factions. Out ambushing the Skaven. I'm not joking. You can do it. Granted, there are some ways Skaven can get a lot more ambush success chance than that, but it's kind of specific and all that to certain skills. The fact that you're already negating the stock stands ambush issue is already powerful enough, and the fact that you can ambush with things with an entire with an entire army of greenskins, including all of the units, including things like rogue idols. Well, imagine sending a rogue idol in an ambush. Yeah, that is pretty freaking scary to consider that. Like, it's a slow unit, right? But when you're ambushing someone, you start pretty close to them. For the most part. There are some maps where that doesn't necessarily apply, but you're relatively close even in those maps. Yeah, I think this is a much better campaign mechanic than what Gorbad has. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm not just trying to dismiss Gorbad, but I really think this is far more suitable for a plan campaign than Gorbad's stuff. It's like, oh, I can buff up Wolf Riders. Yeah, Skarsnik has a landmark that can buff up Unimass of Squigs and upkeep of Squigs. And on top of that, he gets a unique landmark over here in Carricade Peaks because it's been changed. He gets that unique benefit of unit experience, recruit rank for Goblin and Night Goblin units. Does that count for Squigs? Good question. But regardless, you also get Lord Recruit rank. That is specific to Skarsnik. What about orcs? Well, you can't get orcs, or rather you can't get, in any way, shape, or form, the orc building in a campaign until you get Carricade Peaks. Even if you confederate other greenskin factions, the orc buildings will be deleted. You can get orcs through confederation, but you can't train them. No black orc, big bosses, nothing like that. You need to take Carricade Peaks, but then it becomes available in every single one of your settlements. So you will have to train to make this building, to build this chain. So if you take too long, you might fall behind when it comes to Black Orc big boss recruitment, because it does take 6 turns to get the tier 3 structures. But ambushing Black Orcs? Jeez. I mean, as much as I love Grimgor, this maybe is what Skarsnik campaign should have been all around, right? This kind of playstyle where you're encouraged to think as opposed to just rushing in a hill like a big green brute. I mean, that's Grimgor's thing, right? It's very appropriate for Grimgor. For Skarsnik, he should be different. But the problem is, for a long time, he wasn't really different. He wasn't really playing it. He was just playing a shitty campaign because it was a Warhammer 1 campaign. Now, there's still some issues over here. I feel like underboss is a skill that should be removed completely. But because the problem is, when you're stealing 25% experience, this made sense in Warhammer 1 and even Warhammer 2 with limited armies. But in Warhammer 3, like, skills like these are the bane of one's existence. Do not pick this up. Thankfully, you can pick up backstairs tactics and all these other benefits over here for a special skill line. So you're just missing out, you know, recruiting Goblin big bosses and Goblin shamans, which you can care less about. One of the things I would say about shamans, though, one of the problems, I think, is like, CA changed it so you can only increase shaman capacity at tier 4, which is not especially great. The reason it's not great is because without being able to increase capacity at tier 3, we were already in a situation where getting Night Goblin shamans was a really bad idea. But now it's like, why would you do so with a very limited number of shamans? I mean, you get more heroes than you ever did before, right? More Black Orc big bosses, more Goblin big bosses. You get more of those. You get more trolls. You know, you can get those, recruit those. Sure, Night Goblin big bosses and our tier 4 increased capacity. All right, but overall, the greenskin diversity has increased. Just the shaman situation has kind of been nerfed. I mean, you didn't want to recruit 1 million shamans anyway, regardless. But like, if you're recruiting a Night Goblin shaman, you're wasting your money and your slots. It's just not worth it. Don't do it. Don't waste those precious resources, because like, let's just put it like this: a foot of Gork is much better than any freaking spell that, like, there's a lot of things like Brainbuster, pretty scary. Here we go, don't underestimate that. Foot of Gork, of course, right? If you just want to spend a lot of Winds of Magic and obliterate an enemy blob, if you can blob them up. So yeah, just worth saying that. I guess the kindest thing you can say about that is with Savage Orc Great Shamans, you don't necessarily need as many regular Orc Shamans as before, but I'd rather have magic in a hero than having magic in a lord. For the simple reason with the hero, I want to buff the army, I want to get potentially the blue skill line, I want to get, you know, a lot of other things than worry about the magic skill. Just worth saying that aspect, worth saying that about the Savage Orc Great Shamans. They work, don't get me wrong, they do work, but still. Outside that, this is a much, much better campaign than it was before. And, I mean, Grimgore I think is better, sure, but I think... Which is the second best Greenskin campaign? Is it this? Or is it Warzag? Guys, because I think right now it's gotta be one of those. And if you say Grom, no, I'm sorry, the climate situation screws over Grom in a million different ways in his campaign. It's a shame, the faction effects are great, but the climate, no. Especially once now that the economy has been nerfed for Greenskins. But regardless, great changes overall here with this campaign. Could have used a couple of other things, you know, like a chariot mount people complain about. Really a special skill line as opposed to just the stuff on the top over there, very top. Could have been very appropriate. Maybe some, you know, maybe instead of just having the skills at the top, maybe a choice at level 12 would have been great for Night Goblin war bosses. Because you look at a Savage Orc, right? Savage Orc Great Shaman, he has these two choices. One at level, he has choice at level 10, and then the skill line at level 12. An Orc War boss may have those kind of decisions if I have one to recruit. No, I can't. Let's see, an Orc War boss over here. Nope. Yeah, why can't I? Nope. No. Right. Well, anyway. Questine signing out. Stay tuned for more. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications.